Welcome to another episode of Ceramics with Sheriff. We're gonna do an up close and personal version of a pinch pot today, and then we're gonna add our feet to it. So what I'm gonna do is I have my ball of clay. I'm gonna take a little piece, I'm gonna pinch off for my bottom because I know I wanna save some for the bottom. Okay, so today I just wanna go over the simple parts of making a pinch pot. So I'm gonna start with my piece of clay. What I wanna do is turn it into like a nice ball. So I'm gonna use the curved part of my hand to kind of smack the clay. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of smacking and squeezing into a ball shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. What you don't wanna do is overwork it. The more my hands touch this clay, the more moisture my hands will suck out of the clay, which means in return my clay will crack a lot more. And you can start with an egg shape, that works too. So now that I have my ball of clay, I don't really need to focus on smoothing out the cracks or anything on it. That's not a big worry. If you want to, you can do that quick. So step one, my thumb is gonna go straight down. So I want to push it till my thumb's almost all the way through. I left about this much. I can kind of feel. And then I'm just going to kind of spin my thumb around just a little bit. And that'll just make the inside have a little bit more room. So you guys can see what that looks like. You can see I got a crack. So what I'm going to do there is just kind of heal that up a little bit and smooth over it. So my next step, right? I want to pinch this into a pinch pot, but I don't want to start up here. A lot of people have the urge to put their fingers inside. That's not how you want to do it. You only want your thumb inside that little hole we made. So what I'm going to do is right here around the bottom, and you guys can work on it this way. I find it easier if I hold it this way. I'm going to slowly pinch. So my outside hand is just supporting the clay. I'm going to try and keep those fingers straight. My thumb is doing all the work. So I'm pushing my thumb towards my fingers so you guys can see how I'm straight here. And I'm just gonna work around the bottom. And the key is going slow and gentle, just a little bit at a time. You don't wanna pinch too hard. So I'm working my thumb around this part on the bottom. I'm just pinching a little bit at a time, spinning it in my hand. And then I'll slowly work my way up. So now I'm gonna go here, because I haven't pinched that part yet. So you guys go slower than this. I'm trying to do this for the video's sake of time. So pinch, pinch, pinch. And I slowly just work, so now I'm here. So I'm slowly just working my way up, and my pinch pot should start growing this way because I'm keeping my fingers straight. So once again, if I want to while I'm working, I can heal some of these cracks by using some water with the sponge. I like to just use my finger and smooth them out because the clay is soft enough. Okay, so you guys can see I'm starting to get my pinch pot. And remember, it might not be perfectly even, so that's not something we really want to focus on when we're starting. We want to focus on the walls being even, not the top, okay? So I'm gonna keep pinching. And I'm working my way up to the rim now. And you guys can see the rim is about the thickness of my pinky. That's perfect, so I don't want to pinch the rim anymore. But if I'm gonna check the thickness of the whole pot now, what I'm gonna do is kind of use my fingers inside. And I'm gonna feel for any thicker spots and just kind of pinch them a little bit. And also, alternatively, I could take my thumb and kind of use it as a scoop against my palm. So my palm's supporting the cup in the round shape, and my thumb is just going in and smoothing out that inside. So just along the bottom, because this is the part most people leave too thick, right here. This bottom part. So I'm just using my thumb to go in there, and it'll also make my pinch pot a little bit bigger. And there we go. So there's the basic of the pinch pot. So I know my top's not even. I know I could probably pinch it a little bit more, but it's the first time I've ever done a pinch pot, right? So I wanna be careful. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm happy with this. I like the shape. Once I cut the top, I'll be happy with it. So now the bottom, remember, you guys can do whatever you want. You could do little stand feet that it'll stand on. I'm gonna do an upside down little pinch pot. So I'm gonna do the same thing with this, but a mini version. So clay cannot be solid, it has to be hollow. So if I wanted a stand, I just have to make sure it's hollow. And you guys, you'll never see the bottom of a mug like that, so it's okay to be empty like that. So I'm just gonna go and pinch this, make this nice and even. And then I'm just using my thumb to smooth it out. Smooth out any bumps, smooth out any cracks. And then I would just kind of tap it to flatten it out. And then I would tap this to flatten it out. And then I'm just gonna kind of take a look at how they fit together. That is about what I want, just with some shape smoothing. So here I have my basic pinch pot and my foot. I want to refine the shape a little bit and make it neater, so I'm going to use my rib to smooth this out. And then I'm going to wait a little bit for it to dry to get to my carving. So what I'm going to do is let this set up a little bit until it's more of a leather hard stage. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to fix up the shape a little bit, smooth it out with the rib, maybe cut the rim so it's a little bit more even, and then attach these two together. So I just want to wait a little bit for these to get a little bit more firmer, maybe like leave them out for 20 minutes and see where they're at, and then I'm going to go from there. All right, so now that this has had a minute to kind of firm up, I'm going to go in and just correct my shape a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my rib. So I have this card I have, and I'm just going to bend it like this. So this is cardboard, it doesn't work as good as like a plastic one. And what you want to do is hold the inside and take your rib in a bent shape like this so it fits the form of the clay. And you're going to use that to smooth the outside. I can use it that way. So it'll kind of pull any of the bumps off, but at the same time it'll fill in any of the spaces that are missing a little bit of clay. So you can see how smooth that clay looks now compared to like the bumpiness of this. So I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna do that on my whole pot. And I want to work on the design part last. Remember, if I'm doing impress or stamping into the surface, I don't want to wait too long, so I don't want it to get too dry, otherwise those stamps might not work. But leather hard is a perfect state for that. If I try to do it while it's plastic, I'm just going to end up messing my shape up a little bit. So it's always good to clean off that extra clay you're scraping off as you go. All right, so there's my general smooth outside of my pinch pot. I'm gonna do some carving, so I'm not super worried about the outside because most of it's gonna go away, but I just wanted to get it even and smooth while I'm working on it. So I'm gonna do one more pinch towards the bottom. just because I feel like I can, and it's still a little bit thick for my taste. Cool, and if I have any cracks along the top, I can take my little sponge and heal that up. So just a little bit of water, and then I'll just use my finger to kind of go back and forth. Cool. I'm actually not disappointed with the rim, so I might not trim too much off of it. I think it's pretty good. So remember then, when I attach these two pieces together, we need to score and add slip. So we're not gonna add slip, but what I did is, here's my toothpicks I put together. I'm gonna dip them in water, and I'm gonna cross one way, and then I'm gonna cross the other. So basically I'm just roughing the surface up. And I'm gonna do that one more time with a little bit more water. And I'm gonna do the same to the piece that's getting attached. So, score. This one probably only needs one time because it's small. And see how all the slip that's made on there? Just from using the toothpicks. So, now I want to gently push them together. So I'm going to use my thumb on the inside of this little pinch pot to kind of push the clay down. And then my next step is to smooth around where the attachment is. So because my finger's too big for that, I can't really get in those little creases. That's where I use something like a popsicle stick or my pencil, and I can kind of come around and smooth that out. So the goal is, I don't want to see the seam at all. And by smoothing that out, I'm kind of locking the clay together and making it more permanent. So it's kind of sealing those two pieces together. And then what I want to do is just gently, if you have little delicate feet, do not stand it on it. You'll have to store it upside down. That way you won't break your little feet. But because mine's more strong, I kind of just want to stand it up to make sure my shape is kind of how I want it. Cool, so there is my pinch pot with my foot. So now I can go around and just do any refinements to the surface, smooth it out, take my time. If I wanted to trim the top a little bit, mine's still a little soft, so I don't want to do that. And then I'll come back later, and that's when I'll start doing my carving and my impress. Here's a little carving tool. The reason I don't want to do carving yet is because the clay is still a little sticky. So if I did come through, instead of getting a clean carving, that actually came out pretty clean. But you guys can see the clay is still pretty sticky. It's sticking to my finger. I want it a little bit drier before I carve it. It'll just work better and it'll be cleaner. When I do my carvings, I'll just kind of take my finger and gently smooth out that space. I don't want to push too hard and ruin the carving. I'm just barely dragging my finger over that surface. And then I get the nice clean line. So if you guys remember, I would use the paper clip to do the same thing this is doing. So I would just make it in that shape. Yep, it is too sticky. So see how I'm having a hard time with it because it's sticky? So I'm not gonna carve too much. I just want to show you guys for now, and I will finish it later. So I wanted to carve vertical lines, and then I wanted to carve chunks out. So I don't want to really do the chunks right now, but I'll do a couple just to show you guys. So I just wanted to take little pieces out. I wanted them to be a little uneven, to get a little variation in my design. So I'll do some big ones, some small chunks, some long chunks, some short chunks. And you guys can see I'm starting to get my design. So once again, really gently just smooth out those edges so I don't have any sharp edges. And that's it for this step. So later when it's a little bit firmer, I'll come back and trim the rest. All right, so just to wrap up today, remember when we pinch, we want to pinch slow and gentle. We want to start with that ball shape, and we want to be really careful when we go while we're pinching, working from bottom to top. Then we want to make sure we smooth everything out nice and even. So my lip is still a little uneven. So maybe there's some spots I could cut off. Remember, if you're cutting it off, you want something thin like a knife. You could use something like a plastic knife or a metal knife, and you just hold it and kind of slide the knife. You don't want to saw it. So as you can see, I'm just kind of pushing it through. And that's mostly the spot I wanted to fix. And then if I do that, once again, I just want to take a little water and just making like a little V, pinch with my fingers, and just slide that around, and that'll smooth the rim nice and even. So please be careful when adding water to your project. You don't want to add too much, just a little bit. You do not want it sitting in a pool of water. It'll make it fall apart. And that's that. So my foot's attached real good. One thing we always want to do is take a toothpick or a little tool and carve our name, whole name, and our period number in the bottom. So I would write Sheriff let's say I'm in period 2, I would write P2 in the bottom there so I know that it's mine. My foot needs a little bit more work. So once I get to this point, I'm pretty much done except for my design. So all I need to do is take my design and finish that up, and I have this side done. I can take a little bit of sponge to smooth out my carvings. We have a clay that doesn't really have thick sand in it, so using the sponge usually works pretty well to smooth out the clay. You just don't want to use too much. And that's it. And remember, I was just going in and carving some chunks out as I go. That was kind of the texture I was shooting for. And I'm going to repeat that design all the way across. And on the bottom, I'm going to do simpler lines. So maybe I'm just going to use the pencil to carve in my lines there, like that. So I had a few students, just to be clear, that asked about shape. Can I change the shape? Once you get to this point, you can. So if I wanted to make a heart, you know, I could pinch the V shape. So I would want to do this before I put my design on, but you can see I have like a teardrop shape now. So I could do that if I want. If I wanted to make it into a heart, I could work on pinching that shape just by like dragging my finger and pinching a little bit. If I wanted to make it into a square, I would take something that was flat. Let's see. I don't have anything flat around me. I would take something flat and I would smack it on all 4 corners. And you can see I have more of a square shape now. So you really can turn it into a couple shapes, and it's up to you. You can kind of bend some of the rim out if you want. When it's plastic, it works really good for this. So I can alter the shape. Okay, I can squeeze some of the shape in if I want to try. So there's endless possibilities with this. It's all up to you guys and how creative you want to be. So that's the pinch pot. Good luck today and have fun when we start this project. Just remember all those little tips and tricks, and if you guys have issues, you send them to me and I'll try and help you out. Have a great day. I forgot. Let's do the fun part and check my thickness. So my walls are pretty uniform here, yeah? My problem is it's too thick here, but that's what's gonna happen if I attach those things together. But you can see I had a good attachment where you can't really see a line in between them, and they're stuck together pretty well. So that's exactly what we want. I could have went a little bit thinner, or I could have carved out some of the bottom here, but otherwise that's pretty good, and that's our goal. It's not thicker than my thumb. It's not thinner than my pinky, so we are perfect.